In the dense heart of the Ribeira Valley, far from the bustling roads and electric lights, lies a forgotten corner of Brazil. A place where the fog doesn't just cover the land. It clings to stories. Some too old to be remembered. Others too dark to be forgotten. The year was 1932. Pedro de Toledo was a quiet town, surrounded by endless stretches of forest and steep hills that locals called the Whispering Slopes. People lived off the land, feared the night, and prayed loud enough for their voices to reach the heavens or keep something else from hearing them. In one of the isolated cities, those humble farms that dot the region there, lived a man named Silverio. And though the village spoke his name in hushed tones, it was his mother they pitied. A fragile old woman with calloused hands and a broken gaze, who still cooked his meals and still bore his cruelty. Silverio was known for his anger. Quick to raise his voice, quicker to raise his hand. No one dared cross him, not even the priests. And as the town prepared for its traditional Festa Junina, something ancient stirred in those woods. Something older than celebration and older than man. But Silverio, he only saw a party he could not miss. The town of Pedro de Toledo buzzed with anticipation. Colorful flags were being strung between trees. Bonfires prepared. Tables lined with sweets, roasted corn, and barrels of sugarcane liquor. Music would soon echo through the valley. For most, it was a night of joy. For Silverio, it was a chance to drink, fight, and feed his pride. As the sun began to fall behind the mountains, Silverio walked into the stable, expecting his horse to be ready, but the stalls were empty. His brow furrowed. He stormed into the wooden shack where his mother sat peeling cassava by candlelight. "Where are the horses?" he barked. She looked up, her hands trembling. "I let them go," she whispered. There was fear in her eyes, but also something else. Something he hadn't seen before. A kind of knowing. He didn't care. "You what?" he roared, stepping closer. "I heard men in town. They said you shouldn't go. They're planning something. You'd be walking into a trap, Silverio." He laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of amusement. It was hollow, cruel. "So you free the horses?" he shouted. "You think you can stop me?" She backed into the corner, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I only wanted to protect you." And then he snapped. He grabbed the leather saddle and threw it to the ground. "If I can't ride my horse," he spat, "then I'll ride you instead." His voice echoed through the wooden walls, and for a moment, even the forest outside grew. Still, Silverio, with madness in his eyes, forced the saddle straps around his mother. She wept, but didn't resist. Perhaps she knew something he didn't T with every pull of the leather. The candlelight flickered strangely. Outside, the fog grew heavier, pushing against the windows as if trying to get in. Silverio sneered, gripping her shoulders. "If I can't ride a beast, I'll ride you to the party, old witch," he muttered. But as he placed his boot on her back, a strange wind burst through the door. The candle blew out, and in that instant, something changed. His fingers twitched. Pain surged through his bones. He staggered back, gasping. His nails lengthened like claws. Hair began sprouting from his arms, his chest, his face. His teeth sharpened into fangs as he dropped to all fours. Coughing, growling, changing. He tried to speak, but the words came out as snarls. His mother, still sobbing, now stared in horror. It wasn't just a punishment. It was a transformation, a divine curse, triggered by an act so cruel that the land itself responded. Silverio let out a guttural roar. And then, with one last glance, he leapt through the door and vanished into the forest, never to speak like a man again. The morning after, the town of Pedro de Toledo awoke to something wrong. The forest near Silverio's home was filled with claw marks. Trees ripped apart, fences trampled, and not a single track from a horsier man. Neighbors found Silverio's mother outside, wrapped in a blanket, trembling. She didn't speak. Eyes were wide and distant, as if forever watching something no one else could see. People whispered about the screams in the night, about the beast that tore through the woods. Some said it walked upright. Others swore it crawled, like a hound. The priests called it a divine punishment. The elders called it a curse that was older than the town itself. They named it a Maldicao do Cavaleiro sem Monteria, the curse of the rider without a steed. Hunters ventured into the woods, but never returned. And the ones who did, they came back pale, silent, never the same again. Children were warned, don't go near the edge of the forest at night. Don't answer the voice that calls from the dark. And above all, never hurt your mother, because the forest remembers, and the beast listens. Asterisk, but the whispers never stopped. They say the creature still roams the forests near Pedro de Toledo, not seen, only in glimpses between shadows. Beyond the fog a figure with twisted limbs, long claws, and glowing eyes. Some say it runs on all fours, others that it walks like a man. But all agree on one thing, it cries. A howl that isn't quite human, nor beast, they call it the cry of regret. Because they say, the beast mourns, not for his victims, but for his mother, they say he appears on misty nights, especially near the Festa Junina, as if something about that celebration calls him, draws him back to the night of his curse. Many travelers claim to hear hooves behind them, but when they turn, there's nothing. Some wake up with scratches on their doors. Others never wake at all. Locals learn to leave offerings at the forest's edge, old saddle straps, iron horseshoes, and sometimes a single red ribbon, and always with a whisper, "Forgive us, Donna Maria, for what your son became," because everyone knew. He still wandered, watching, waiting, listening, asterisk. It was June again. A group of documentary students from São Paulo arrived in Pedro de Toledo, chasing rural legends for their final project. They had heard the old tale, the beast of the Vale de Ribeira, but dismissed it as folklore. One of them, Camila, found an old woman near the town's edge, wrinkled hands, empty eyes. Don't go near the forest during Festa Junina, the woman warned. The one who wore his mother as a saddle still rides. The students laughed. Urban minds didn't fear old ghosts. They set up camp near the ruins of what locals said was once Donna Maria's house. Only a single wall remained, half burned, covered in claw marks no one dared explain. That night, strange sounds crept through the trees, not footsteps. Not wind, but breathing, heavy, raspy, furious, and came the hoofbeats, but there were no horses. Only a silhouette pacing along the tree nettle, hunched, its spine arched unnaturally, eyes like coals, teeth that glinted like broken glass in moonlight, and in its hand, a twisted, decaying saddle, asterisk. The students froze. One of them, Raphael, tried to film, but the screen flickered, distorted, as if the very air resisted being recorded. Cami, Lee whispered, "It's him." They ran, but the beast didn't chase. It dropped the saddle at the center of the clearing, and vanished. In the morning, the group approached the spot. The saddle had aged decades overnight. Cracked leather, torn seams, and a name burned into the side, Maria dos Anjos. Camila, stunned, whispered the name again and again. Her own grandmother had that name. She called her mother. The truth unraveled. Like threads from an old shroud, Maria dos Anjos was real. And Camila was her descendant. The story wasn't just folklore. It was legacy. The curse hadn't died in the forest, that it lived in bloodlines, passed through generations, waiting for someone to come back. Someone marked. That night, the beast returned, but this time, it didn't howl dot. It knelt dot before Camila dot and spoke a not, with words, but through a sound that echoed in her mind. A plea, a memory, a final wish. Asterisk Camila stood still. The beast before her bowed its head, claws in the dirt, eyes no longer wild, but sorrowful dot. It wasn't rage. She felt now, dot, it was grief. Century-old torment, held inside a cursed soul who had once been a man, and who had once loved his mother, in a twisted, broken way. The others watched in silence. The forest, once suffocating with fear, now breathed gently. A breeze stirred the leaves. The fog began to lift dot then. The beast took one last breath dot it, laid its clawed hand on Camila's shoulder. A shockwave of images flooded her mind. The night of the festival, the betrayal, the violence, the transformation, the pain of knowing he could never return. And finally, peace. The beast stepped back, turned toward the dense trees, and vanished into the woods. Gone. Camila dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face, but not from fear, from release. The others came to her side. No one spoke. The saddle remained, but now it was whole again, clean, polished, as if untouched by time. She picked it up dot, and as the group left the forest, the sun rose dot, not just over Pedro de Toledo, but over a secret laid to rest for nearly a century. Asterisk 3 days later, back in the city, Camila visited her grandmother. Maria dos Anjos sat quietly, knitting by the window. Camila handed her the saddle. The old woman touched the name burned into the leather. Her eyes welled up with tears. I prayed one day someone would return it, she whispered. He wasn't just a monster, you know. He was my brother. Camila froze. Her heart raced. You knew? Maria nodded. That forest never forgets. But sometimes it forgives.